And now joining us in studio for our real estate report, this guy has won every award in the book, including #1 per the Wall Street Journal in production. He's helped so many people through so many different markets. Always good to have him on the show. Kurt Wanabo, good to have you here, man.
Craig, thanks for having me.
So 2016, another year of real estate. You've been in this game for a while, dominating it. Every year is different, though. Every market's different. So how are we doing so far this year?
Well, we're only a couple weeks into it, and it's definitely started off very quick and with a bang. A lot of sellers already who are ready to put their homes on the market as opposed to waiting to the traditional March, April, or summertime. And a lot of buyers have been out in the market after the new year submitting offers, probably wanting to capitalize and take advantage of the interest rates before they do inevitably probably increase.
So let me ask you this. We've talked a little bit already today and even in previous shows about the interest rate scare. Janet Yellen's raising rates, even though that's not mortgage rates. It gets people to think they're mortgage rates, so get off the fence, let's do something. It's the buy side. You have a lot of people sell their home. You just mentioned there's a lot of activity on the listing side. What do you think is causing that?
I think people are attuned to that as well. Sellers are attuned to the fact that there's probably going to be a lot of action. And last year, I saw people start to put their homes on the market, February, March, which was earlier than before. This time, the sellers are even wanting to capitalize and get them on even sooner. So a lot of them have mentally been thinking about this, preparing through the holidays, and are ready to go as soon as the new year happens.
How's inventory?
Inventory's been, well, obviously during the holiday season, it's always lower than what it is traditionally the rest of the year. But what we're seeing is a lot of sellers come on the market very, very quickly. So it's something you have to watch to see if it increases rapidly, especially in these first 2 months of the year.
One of the things that we have really, it's kind of attached to you since you've been on the show, and you've been on the American Dream since show #1. Kurt always tends to be 90 days in front of the market. So if you want to know what's happening in the marketplace, you can visit him online. Certainly, we love having him on the show because the media tends to be 60 to 90 days late. And
I was having a discussion with another realtor the other day who said, what do you mean the inventory is increasing? I just looked at the SDAR stats and they say this. And I said, well, you understand what you're looking at is 60 days old. That's news and data from 60 days ago. That's not what's happening in the past 2 weeks in real time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Right? So you always have these unique programs. One of them you do is it's the no listing commission.
Right.
Right? It kind of sounds too good to be true. I know that often that actually upsets the industry a bit when someone like you is willing to offer your services for free because they think they're worth all this commission. So explain how it works.
So essentially, I've talked about this program before, but over the course of the past 2 years, we've had a lot of success with it. And it essentially is this. If a seller is willing and wanting to sell their property for a particular price, I am willing to go out and try to find a buyer to achieve that particular price and get them an offer and get a transaction completed. And if I do so, I will not be charging any listing commissions to that particular seller. So the way that it works essentially is, and understand I can't do this all over the place.
Right.
Okay. What this takes in order for me to be able to do it is for me to be able to have buyers. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I work in some very specific areas, most notably in the Carmel Valley or 92130 zip code, and I list a lot of properties there. So what that means is we have a tremendous amount of buyers that we're running across through open houses and through our listings and internet or phone call inquiries. And I have a team of 5 buyer agents, and it's their job to service all of those buyers. And at any given time, we can be working with 80 to 100 buyers specifically looking to buy in the 92130 zip code. So I have this pool of buyers.
Yeah, so you have this bullpen, right, that you can tap into. You can go to your buyers agents and all their clients and say, hey, we got this property. Now, one of the questions I was going to ask is why don't other agents do this? And I think you just answered it actually, in that they don't necessarily have the resources to pull it off.
You have to understand that the average agent in San Diego is doing anywhere from 1 to 3 transactions a year. Okay. And so what that means is that any given day, the average agent may only have 1 or 2 buyers. Okay, they may not have the large pool that we particularly do, and so those 1 or 2 buyers isn't going to be able to facilitate a transaction from the numerous sellers that we're working with that many times want to employ this program. So you have to have a lot of business and you have to have a large pool of buyers in order to make something like this work.
So without that, it kind of is impossible.
It's tough. I would just say it's not impossible, it's tough. So, we do have this large group of pool of buyers. One of the questions sellers always ask me is, this sounds too good to be true. What's the catch?
Right.
What's in it for you and how does it work? Well, essentially the first thing I always explain to sellers is this. First, you don't have to sign any contracts with me whatsoever. Nothing. There's no obligation for you to have to work with me. Some agents will come to a seller and say, I have a buyer, but you also have to list it with me.
Right.
I don't do that. So there's no written obligation whatsoever. If a seller all I need from a seller is essentially a price that they're willing to entertain and to tell me exactly when it would be an ideal time frame as far as moving. So sometimes we have sellers who come to us and say, look, Kurt, I want this price, but I'm not really ready to go right now, but I would sell in 6 months.
Got it.
Well, many times our buyers are willing to wait for the right property and submit an offer to them.
Especially now, right?
Absolutely.
Low inventory.
If the inventory is low, a buyer's willing to come in and present an offer, but say, hey, seller, you can stay there, or we can close escrow whenever you want, or do a rent back, or whatever the case may be. So, and then the next question people always ask me is, what seller in their right mind would do this? Why would a seller go down this particular route?
Why wouldn't they is my question, but
why
go
wouldn't
ahead.
they?
Yeah.
Well, first and the obvious is there are no commissions involved, right? If I'm going to present an offer to a seller, I am representing my buyers.
Right.
I'm not representing them, so they don't have to pay me any commissions whatsoever. But the more practical advantages for a seller is, one, they don't have to deal with buyers coming through their home, whether that be through an open house or through numerous showings. Again, they can kind of set the timeline of things. Most sellers who officially go on the market with the MLS have an understanding that if they get an offer from their buyer, they're going to have to move out in 30 to 60, maybe as long as 90 days. But under this program, they could, facilitate a transaction, and we've even worked things out where they stay for six months to a year.
You make a good point on a lot of times people don't like to make this public knowledge that they're even selling their house. I think I see this a lot in the luxury market. There's not always these open house front yard signs because people want to keep it off the radar a little bit. So to me, this is really interesting because, well, first of all, you couldn't do it if you didn't have the buyer pool. So you've crafted this based upon the success of your business, knowing that you're able to bring these people on. Now, in the past, you've talked about doing the for sale by owner and how you'll even allow sellers to sell their property right alongside you at their own price. And if you can sell it for more, you'll take the commission that way, but only if you can justify it by getting a higher price point. So in future shows, I want to talk about that as well. So it's pretty unique. I mean, you've crafted this thing. It obviously is working well. If there's anything that anyone would say, well, is it too good to be true? Is there any catch?
Well, there's 2 points you mentioned. One is, sellers and some of the advantages. Privacy absolutely is one of them. Many times sellers do not want to have people coming through. So the question they ask me is, well, how are you going to find buyers? Are you going to put my home on the internet? Are you going to put it on the MLS? The answer is no. We don't do that. We don't even take pictures of their property. I do have to walk through it so I have an understanding of the condition that it's in and the amenities and situation of it, etc. But we don't take any pictures. I have all of the information, and only our prospective buyers are able to see these properties. So it's very private and confidential for sellers. The next question you touched upon would be, why do I do this, right? Why do I do this? The reason I do it is I essentially make this an added value proposition for the buyers that I'm working with.
Right.
Any agent can find properties on the MLS for their buyers and say, hey, what about this one or what about that one? But for my buyers, they're not only exposed to things that are on the MLS or the internet. I have these other sellers potentially or inventory of homes that I can propose to them that might fit their needs. Currently in the 92130 zip code, I have over 80 people signed up under this program. Okay, when I say signed up, they've just given me their price and permission to entertain offers. So this is a benefit for my buyers to be able to see the additional inventory, see additional homes that meet their needs that aren't officially on the market. So that's essentially why we do it and why we don't charge any particular commissions. I'm not concerned about getting the listing. I'm concerned about servicing my buyers, and we're more than happy to receive a commission for representing them.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. There's two sides of the equation, and when you have attracted this many people who are relying on you to find their home, then you can do unique things like this that a lot of the industry can't do. Was there 20,000 realtors? Right?
Yeah, we're up about 22,000.
22,000 people who can call themselves experts and handle your biggest investment and your biggest debt when you're talking about your mortgage. Kurt Wanabo, I know you're a busy guy. It's always good to have you in here. Thanks for coming on The American Dream.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
All right, coming up next, we're going to get to some of your emails that we've got throughout the week from our radio show and here on The American Dream at craigsewing.com. So let's go answer some of your questions right now.